fix the country. Has it failed?
I hope it hasn't. I hope it hasn't because it triggered something that I believe, and indeed many people in government believed, was giving us an opportunity to have an open, frank conversation about what it takes to fix some things in this country. I think at some point there was an attempt to politicize it, and that is what may have lost it part of the traction that it was getting, even from neutrals, from people from the MPP stock and from the NDC stock. And you know, once you start politicizing things, people will move into their dimensions. But essentially, my understanding of it was that it was a platform that was aimed at pushing for a quick resolution to some matters: roads, economic issues, energy jobs, etc. Now, you notice that government has been pushing this conversation for a while now. You don't always get the traction. Sometimes you are competing with Efia Odo and all sorts of things, Polo, and all sorts of things that are happening.
Yeah.
Admittedly, because they are all news and public matters that catch people's attention. So this time, when you get it on the reverse side, that particularly the youth that you need are now the ones pushing the conversation, it gives you an opportunity to mainstream part of that conversation. And I think our expectation was that the other half of it, of what is our collective responsibility to fix things together, will now come to the table. Unfortunately, it appears to be going on the downside. But we think that it's important to continue the conversation and to continue talking about what it takes to fix the myriad of issues around us and our collective responsibility.
That's why people fight with the officials of government. This collective responsibility. They say that you people take the taxes. We don't take taxes, so we have no role.
No, it's not.
What's the collective thing about?
No, it's not true. I mean, take roads, for example, and just on Sunday and this week, we've been talking a lot about roads. The minister responsible for roads is giving us some interesting data. Ghana has 78,000 kilometers of roads. 78,000 kilometers of roads. And as we speak, what has happened is that, or let's say by 2017...
Hold on, this 78,000 includes everything?
Yeah, everything. Ghana's total road.
So I go to Hacho, Atomic, that small
all
road.
of that is 78,000 kilometers.
Oh, they have data like that?
They have data like that.
That's impressive, by the way.
And some change.
That's
now,
impressive.
He explains to us at the time that he assumed office in 2017, we had done only about 23% of that. 23% of that 78,000 had been paved. So you can weather the math. I think
paved means what? Asphalted?
With bitumen on it. So that brings it to
23%.
Yes.
Okay.
If you do the math, that will bring it, I think, to what? Is it 18,000 or so?
Something like that.
Okay. So net that off. That will bring you down to about 60,000 kilometers of roads as at 2017 January.
Unpaved.
Unpaved. And then he explains to us that in the last 4 years, what was done was close to 4,000. Now, first of all, two things. You got to net or compare that 4,000 to what was done every other 4 years before. And it will tell you the pace at which we are fixing our roads. Now, when you net that 4,000 of the 60,000 or so, that brings you to about 54,000 outstanding as at now. What they did on Sunday was to announce a program that currently the various road contracts that have been given amount to about 11,000 kilometers. Assuming we're able to complete that 11,000 in these 4 years, that will shave off 11,000 off that 54. And then you have an outstanding, and if successive governments are all doing about 11,000 kilometers in 4 years, give or take, what is it? Is it 20 years or so? We should have all this question about.
Yeah, but the 78 may be expanding.
Well, may or may not. It's not everywhere that you are going to necessarily construct new road corridors.
Okay.
Remember, this is all about the corridors that already exist that are not paved. Now, he says to us that from the program they have and the funding arrangements they have, he thinks they can finish about 6,000 of them in these 4 years. And the other outstanding will be work in progress. The question that drops from it is, what does it take to finish this 6,000 even, as he has put there? A lot of it is money. A good chunk of it is technical support. So the government has a responsibility. The technocrats have a responsibility. But the people have a responsibility. And I'll explain. The responsibility of the government is to ensure that the resources are mobilized, the technocrats are doing a job, and the roads are fixed. And even in so doing, the minister has extended what you call the warranty period for roads from about 1 year now to 5 years.
What does it mean, warranty period?
So what it means is that previously, if you're a contractor and you built a road, you had 1 year to maintain it, after which anything that happens on the road is not the problem of government. Now, to ensure that contractors are doing a quality job, it's been extended to 5 years.
Okay.
So when you build a road, for 5 years, you are responsible for it.
So you most likely do it well.
So it is a major introduction to ensure that the phenomenon of shoddy jobs goes down. But now when you come to what it takes to fix, even the 6,000 kilometers of roads, if you look at the funding options, what comes from the road fund? Very limited. Very often you're having to borrow. Look at what happened when Kufuor tried to do the Gang of Four roads with GOG funding. It's been there up till now, and we're now trying to find some more resources to do it. So very often governments like to do debt for roads. So they find a particular credit facility, attach it to a particular road. Now, the minister has indicated right from the beginning, it was reiterated by the minister responsible for finance at the time, Osei Minister Bonsu, that we'll need to look at the road fund and up it so that we can get a significant volume of funds into the road fund.
What's the maximum of it now?
Currently, they are getting, I think, about 1 billion, 1.2 billion a year into the road fund based on the tolls we are paying. Now, there's a conversation about what 1.2 billion can do. If today the commitments are about 8 billion to finish, and you need about $10 billion, which is about 60 billion cedis to finish the entire road network, 1 billion cedis a year will not do it for us as quickly as we want. Or do we want to go and borrow some more money against our current constraints? And that's where the citizen conversation comes.
Do we want to increase the road toll? Is that an
option?
So
that is the conversation we have to have. That is a conversation that Honorable Minister has mentioned needs to come back on the table. Of course, he has to come through cabinet. There's a whole process for governance. He has to do his memos, do his justifications, come to cabinet, get cabinet approval, and then he can come to the public and say, this is what cabinet has
But the citizens will
approved.
say that they are tired. They've been taxed so heavily.
Well, it's a chicken and egg situation. So what Fix-It does is that it gives us an opportunity to have this conversation. What is the role of government? What is the role of the technocrats who were previously supervising some of those shoddy jobs? And what is the role of the citizen? And so it is in that context that I say it was a fantastic opportunity. It will be disappointing if it's, just a fact that it's gone. But we need to continue having that conversation so that we collectively commit to what it takes to get things done. Because you cannot build a country by yourself as a government. You need the citizen input and participation. If you are fighting, let's say, illegal small-scale mining, you can't do it by yourself. You need citizen participation and support to get to the next mile. And it is in that context that I say that this is a good opportunity that we shouldn't lose.
Is it because politicians promise too much? When you're running the campaign, you promise too much, and so
I'm not sure
when
it's
we
about...
tell you that fix it and do the promise, then you say we
are
all involved.
I'm not sure it's about politicians promising too much or citizens being irresponsible totally or this being that. You see, developing the country requires different people to play different roles. What is important is that consistently we have those national conversations about our various roles. We can't dump it all on citizens. We can't dump it all on government. You can't dump it all on civil society or the media. In reverse, you can't blame just one person for it. It is that regular interaction of the various forces of society for each to realize that we have an obligation in this enterprise that will get us to that end.
Did you meet with them?
The
Fix the Country people?
Personally, I wasn't there. Ministers of Finance and National Security and Justice, I think about 6 other ministers had the opportunity to meet with them and actually to express some level of pleasure at the fact that they had started this conversation and the fact that the government had also been doing a number of things. So 2 things needed to happen. It was important to showcase to them and bring them along what the government was doing. It was also important to solicit their support in expanding that conversation so that in the end we all see ourselves in how we are fixing this Ghana together. My understanding, and since both sides issued social media statements after the meeting, my understanding, the brief I had, was that, first of all, they were pleased that their concerns had been taken this seriously by a whole government delegation of about 6 ministers, and government was pleased that they had this initial conversation. They exchanged contacts and agreed that they would explore ways of meeting further. But that has not materialized.
But the Sunday press conference that you organized for the finance minister, what was it intended for?
Well, first of all, it's part of our briefings, as I mentioned earlier. But it was also intended to update the country on something that President Akufo-Addo had hinted early 2020, which maybe we missed, but which was now manifesting. He said that we know how to bring the economy back to life, but for human beings, we don't know how to bring them to back. Why did he have to say that? Because we were coming from an economic trajectory where we had gone so low that we now had to actually go to the International Monetary Fund and go for a bailout. That we can't handle this anymore. We need your help. Give us some money and some technical advice to fix this. From there, things kept going down until 2017 when President Akufo-Addo's administration took over. And everybody will attest to the gradual uptick of the Ghanaian economy. Perfection? No. Everybody got a job? No. Everybody got satisfied? No. But it cannot be denied that there was a gradual improvement of our situation until COVID hit us. Now, the president's point in March or so, 2020, was that what is going to happen, and if you read the theory of pandemics and pandemic management, whenever you are hit with a pandemic, you have a twin crisis. You have the health crisis, and then it's often followed by a financial or an economic crisis, because in dealing with a health crisis, the measures that you take will end up affecting the economy. The president's point was that we're going to have to sacrifice all of these economic gains. The economy is going to go down. But it is better to sacrifice all of that and protect people's lives, because for the economy, we know how to bring it back to life. If we say we want to preserve the economic gains we have made and keep on that trajectory, just so that we have a good economic record, people are going to die. And when people die, we can't bring them back to life. I don't know if perhaps at that time we did not catch on to what he was saying. But what he spoke of is what now in January, February, March 2020, when we had gradually made some success in saving lives, people now started raising, okay, so how do we fix the economy? So what the finance minister came back to do was to say, don't worry, this is what the president spoke about. That is why we put in place a plan called the Ghana Cares of Batampa program, which is aimed at injecting this economy back to life. And then went on to outline the various things that had already been put in and announced, maybe, you know, because of the conversations. And that's why I said sometimes you don't get the full national attention because the nation's attention is consumed with something else. And so what he did was to reiterate what had been said, what had been done, what had been outlined, and the next steps. And you notice that just a few days ago, he came back to speak to one of the first elements in that, the National Development Bank, and how it's going to play a role in getting all of this done.
So you are saying that all of this economic situation, discomfort, was predicted?
If you have studied the history of pandemics, this is not new. When you have a pandemic and you are shutting down economies, people can't move, all of this thing is happening, your economy is going to literally grind to a halt. Look at what is happening to some of the economies that have literally, I mean, for some economies, the argument is that they are just not seeing it, but they're actually in a recession.
Yes, yes.
Ghana has dropped from an average 7% growth to about 0.5, some say 0.9% in 2020. Why? Because you had to shut down major economic activity, because the major things that you were doing to get this economy on track, you had to halt them. When you halt them, revenues were not coming into the national kitty. At the same time, you have to spend more. No, not just what you have programmed, more.
Yeah.
So your deficit is going to get wider than you had even programmed. Remember, we had brought down the deficit from about 11%, or the adjusted 6%, down to under 5%, and had actually capped it by law. That never again should any administration go beyond 5%, unless with the prior approval of Parliament. Now, because of all of this and COVID fiscal implication, what is it? 23 billion Ghana cedis, 23 billion Ghana cedis, 23 billion Ghana cedis. Think about it.
Spent on COVID.
Fiscal implications, revenue that did not come in.
Revenue loss, okay, and then the overspending. Yeah.
So in the end, you are not growing, you are spending money to hold the situation. The theory tells you that every time this happens, you are going to have an economic challenge. But that one, you can bring it back to life if you know how to do it. But if you do like what some heads of state did, and you've seen the heads of state who went that way, that they were not going to take any measures aimed at mitigating the health crisis because they didn't want to sacrifice the gains in the economy. Take Trump, for example. I think we can be you know, bold and open about it. One of the considerations of the Trump administration was that the economy was one of their strongest points. If you shut down the economy and jobs are suffering and hardships, you lose the election. In many of those economies, you will now find out that death rates were a lot higher, the human cost was higher, and sometimes even consequently gets to the political side. So the theory is that you can sacrifice the economy, and if you know how to bring it back to life, that way you can do it. If you don't do that, and you allow people to die, you can't bring the people back to life. And that's exactly where we are. And that is why, right at the beginning of the year, the Ghana Cares of Batampa program was outlined, that this is what we are going to have to use to bring the economy back to life. So today, it is a good thing that people have caught on to the conversation that how do we fix this economy? And what Finance Minister was saying that, guess what? This is what we're talking about all along. Now, can we do this together?
So we are in good hands. That's what it's
We're in good hands.